Before CDs, cutscenes, loot boxes, or even the advent of cartridges, there was the very first consoles that pioneered and opened the gates for the gaming industry. Although they may seem primitive in the modern era, they were brilliant in their time. This is a short story of the first generation consoles. In 1951, Ralph Baer, while building a television from scratch for the company Laurel, company that originally developed radar and sonar systems for the US Navy, had the idea of an interactive television, making the first step in the creation of the home console. By December 1966, Ralph and the technician, Bill Harrison, developed a prototype that allowed the player to move a line across the screen, and by August the next year they had already built a third prototype. Ralph, however, was not satisfied with the games they had created. He thought they weren't fun enough. Due to that, they added a new member to their team, Bill Rush, who, after discovering a way to display 3 dots on the screen instead of the previous 2, proposed the idea of the development of a ping-pong game. In January 1969, they completed the final prototype, naming it the Brown Box. However, after approaching various cable television industries, they were unsuccessful in selling the console. Fortunately, by January 1971, they were able to sign an agreement with Magnavox, who, a couple of months later, launched their newest system, the Magnavox Odyssey. Going back to mid-1960s, at the University of Utah, Nolan Bushnell, after seeing the famous game Space War located in the facility, felt that an arcade version of the Digital Wonder would be very popular, however, not economically feasible at the time. By 1970, mini-computers were starting to become cheaper and more available, so he and his friend Ted Dabney decided to design a prototype of the game. But by the end of the year, they gave up on the project, since economically feasible computers weren't powerful enough yet. Shortly after, however, Dabney found a way around this by manipulating the video on the screen without the computer controlling it. They then started building a specialized hardware to handle everything for the game instead. Computer Space was the first commercial arcade game released by the pair through the company Nutting Associates in 1971. After its release, they incorporated as Atari and began designing more games, later on designing Pong after being inspired in a demonstration of the Odyssey console's game Table Tennis. In the late 1970s, the production of chips consoles use was simplified and made a lot cheaper. Due to that, many companies entered the market, leading to a saturation of Atari clones and a consequent decline. By 1976, after the release of the Fairchild Channel F, the technology became obsolete, since by now consumers had the option to simply buy games for the newest consoles instead of buying entirely new systems if they wanted more content. This marked the beginning of the second generation and the slow death of the first. This era, hundreds of consoles were released, however, only a few were the most influential and popular of them all. The Odyssey series, released by Magnavox between 1975 to 1977, had 11 consoles, ranging from $100 to $230, or $475 to $1,093 in 2020. They used an inbuilt chip, and their sales were unknown. The Home Pong console, released by Atari in late 1975, cost $98 or $470 in 2020. It used an inbuilt chip and it sold 150,000 units. The Coleco Telstar series, released by Coleco between 1976 and 1978, had 14 different models, which cost around $50, equivalent to $225 in 2020. It generally used an inbuilt chip, except for the Telstar Arcade 1977, which used cartridges. They sold around 1 million units. The Color TV game series, released by Nintendo, had 5 consoles ranging from 9,800 yen to 48,000 yen, equivalent to 50,559 yen to 65,347 yen in 2020, or $147 to $620. They also used an inbuilt chip, and they sold over 1.5 million units. The start of home consoles was an intriguing one. It opened the way to many more companies and systems, while still not being forgotten. It made a lot of mistakes which led to its downfall, however, it established base rules which are still used nowadays. This was a brief history of the first generation consoles.